Hello everybody, thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to do a look inside of an old game that I had when I was younger and I repurchased, and it's one that I used to have a friend that lived not too far from me, and we used to play this game a few times. We never got into the whole campaign, but we did play some of the situations there. And this game is from Avalon Hill, 1776, and the game of the American Revolution. And I just remember enjoying this game a lot. It has a very large map, which was impressive in the day, you know, when you had this large map. And it had a good number of pieces I thought were a lot, but nothing compared to what you have today. This game came out in 1974, and just looking in the back here, had 4 different scenarios and plus the campaign game. So let's go ahead and take a look inside. Now, if you do enjoy these videos, please do like and subscribe. That does help out the channel a lot, and I really love having you around for any future videos that I do. So let's check it out. So 1776, the game of the American Revolution by Avalon Hill. And I've always liked the cover of this game. I always, you know, the red and the blue and the white, just how can you go wrong? And on the back here, gives a little description, some of the scenarios that you have, the 4 scenarios. Here's what you get in the box, ages 12 and up, and of course the map. And at the time I thought they had a pretty nice map. There were some people at the time that didn't like the map that was in here, but I always did. Let's take a look inside. Now again, this is one that I bought used. I actually had this in my collection when I was younger, sold it off, and so I had to rebuy it. So this is what I got. Now this first one is start of second phase. So we have somebody that played it with this particular information in there. It does come with some tactical cards, and you've seen these used in other games. And of course, they're Avalon Hill teeny tiny dice. Now, these game counters I made up here because all these counters were in plastic bags. So we'll show you those in a minute. Avalon Hill victory card, do a friend a favor. So this is really an early one of those. You have the terrain effects chart right here on top. And it's kind of a thin paper. For that, a lot of people would tape them into the side of the box just to have it so they could stand up. And you see that somebody wrote on there. And here's your advanced game combat result table, tactical result matrix. And then you have the basic game combat result, fleet engagement. You do have some fleets in this, and force march table, so you can get you guys further, but it does take a toll. And then we have 2 cards with the scenarios on them. So green Southern Campaign, Invasion of Canada, scenario 1, scenario 3 greens, and then scenario 4, Virginia Yorktown Campaign, and scenario 2, Saratoga Campaign. And of course you have your reinforcement record track at start, victory conditions, area play, what map you use, and all that. And you do have a campaign game that you can also do. So somebody had a little bit of artistic talent and wanted to do a little art on the 2nd edition rule book, which is okay. You know, you're not going to get everything perfect. But introduction, design critic, game design, Randall C. Reed did that. And he did quite a few games for Avalon Hill. And we have our units, and then basic game rules, which is only 2 pages. So like nothing compared to, well, 3 pages. Well, we'll give it 3 pages. But still, very simple game rules. Advanced game rules, and then we have 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you see that people took notes in this. They had some interesting notes that they were taking. And then advanced option rules that you can add onto it. So by the time you get done, as you start playing the game, you can keep adding rules to it and playing it over and changing the game up. And then simulation, the campaign simulation game. And these are all the rules that deal with that. Here, and this is where you start seeing the ships coming into play. And then you have campaign option rules. So once you get done with all the campaigns, and then here's your victory conditions in your campaign, But once you get done with the campaign game, you end up with 21 pages of rules. And then you have some history here and designer notes in the back. And talk about the general magazine and some question and answers that were printed in the second edition to help explain some of the errata that may have happened from the first edition. So that's your rule book. And here is another scenario. Let me get this like that to make it a little easier on myself. So add start. So this is your campaign card. Tells you what you start with, where they're at, and then you start working on through getting reinforcements. And then here is the maps. Now, of course, Avalon Hill was always mounted. Their maps were always mounted. All right, so it's a very long map. So we'll start with two sections here. These northern two here. And here's the north, and working your way south. And this is all along the east coast, of course, because that's where all the action was happening. And then this would add on to there. And then finally, your battle would end up in the south also. So coming down there. So it takes a little bit of a length of a board to set it up. I'd have to go on my table across this way. But I can get it all across there. And then, of course, here's your sea lane here to use your ships. But that's the maps on there. And you can see that it's kind of a cool layout of maps, I thought, back when I played it a long time ago. But let's just take a look at this. So then I have the game counters, and I made up these little holders. I'm going to make some new ones for this. I think I don't mind this design, but it's okay. But so now your units are pretty generic. They're just strength points, and then of course they have the movements. But you know, so you can have 2 1/8s or 1 2/8. So they just combine back and forth like that. You have supply, you have forts, you have entrenchments, and we have some canoes here, and down here we have some ships. We have some drawn on pieces, so that tells me that something's missing probably here. But and you got some decoys you can fake out to your opponent if you like. But yeah, so these are the little setup that I made for these counters. Now the counters are they're 1/2-inch counters, so that, you know, they're on the small side. They're like a lot of the Civil War games, but it has to be that way with this large map setup that you have. So that's pretty much the way it is. But I made these things according to the color that they are. Blue for the Americans, red for the British, and of course gold for the Tories, I think they are on those, or the Tory. So those are my game counters. Put the maps in here. Now Avalon Hill maps always were funny because they always folded with the game outward, and that's the way they had their maps, which kind of damaged them. You can see that, you know, you get scrape marks on there after some time, but you know, that's just the way it is. Let me put these on top of all of this. So there's my 1776 game. I thought it was a really good buy. Good stuff in it. Everything's in there. It's complete. I checked it, and looking forward to diving back into this game after a long hiatus from it. If you enjoy this stuff, please do like and subscribe. Appreciate you hanging out this long, and hope to see you in the next video.